How's it going today, guys? Today we're going to be doing a video on the blanket roll as featured by a lot of 3rd Infantry members, or at least it's associated with the 3rd Infantry Division quite a bit. So the blanket roll is pretty much just a convenient way of taking everything in your haversack and rolling it up, in essence. So I've laid out here a whole array of things just because I know that GI reenactors like to carry pretty much their house with them every time they leave, anywhere. So I'm gonna give you guys all possible avenues with this and really pack it out to the gills. Because honestly, like I said, a lot of people like to carry way more than they really need, and that's part of this. It's a process of elimination. You realize, okay, I don't need this, I don't need that, and you remove it. I'll show you the bare minimum of pretty much what I carry, and it's gonna look like almost nothing, but realistically, that's all you need. So let's get into it. Okay, guys, so we're going to move on to the actual contents, and we'll go left to right, top to bottom. So starting all the way on the left, you have a ditty bag or just a personal effects bag, anything that you can pretty much use to carry stuff in. It's a bag. So basically, you're just condensing all of your stuff into a smaller unit. So everything in that bag might have been spread out across an entire haversack, but it's now just in a bag. Same thing goes with the K rations. You're not going to be carrying like 4 days worth of K rations. If anything, you're going to end up strapping or throwing those into a different bag or strapping them to you. I've seen a lot of guys carry them just with rope tied around their back or something like that. The K-Rat boxes over here are what I carry my personal items in. I just threw the ditty bag in as an example because everybody has different stuff. So basically, again, the whole point of this is condensing all of your stuff down to a smaller size. So next is this 5-button sweater. It could be anything. Guys carried anything from a spare wool shirt to underwear. I have 2 undershirts here. It can really be anything that you personally feel like you would rather carry than, per se, a raincoat or a sleeping bag, things like that. It really all comes down to personal preference, and that's why they're all different sizes and shapes and whatnot. So again, like I said, sweater, 2 undershirts. This is another blanket, and we'll get into this. So basically underneath this is a blanket, and some guys would either use 1 or 2 blankets, and it really comes down to what you had. Some guys only had 1, some guys only had 2. So that, and also that right there. Well, we have a dismounted raincoat and a shelter half. So some guys, what you'll end up seeing is a shelter half rolled over this whole roll once I'm done with it. And the point of that is pretty much to waterproof everything. It's a way of waterproofing all of the contents that are in there versus just leaving it exposed with wool and whatnot. The dismounted raincoat, I brought that in just because there's some guys you'll see that do throw it on the back of their belt, and then there's guys that you wonder, where is it? It might even be in their blanket roll. So again, I'm just giving everything possible just because, like I said, guys like to keep everything on them at once, and if that's not a reenactorism, I don't know what is, but I'm going to give you guys every possible option and show you that it is possible to roll it as tight as possible and not have it look like a giant sausage link. So let's get on to rolling it. Before we roll the actual bedroll, I just wanted to throw in this one little piece of information, which is basically with these blanket rolls, you'll see different versions. Like I had said before, there's 1 or 2 blanket possibilities, then there's guys putting shelter halves over them, and this is going to cause them to get a lot thicker when you roll them. The first time you roll it over, you'll realize, like, oh shit, all of this is kind of thick, it's not going to look how I want it. It will. Don't worry. It definitely will. And the major thing is, if it really makes you uncomfortable that your blanket roll looks a little thicker than everybody else's, dude, just drop a blanket or just drop the shelter half. This is more of a late war item. It was used in the invasion of France, in the Dragoon operation, and you'll see some guys with them, and they have a OD3 shelter half over it versus the OD7 that I'm using. It really comes down to the impression and the unit, because everybody did things differently, and everybody had their own way of doing it. So just research before you do anything like that. This video is more of it's a generalization, just how to roll the blanket roll. I know I keep throwing 3rd Infantry Division around, but it is common with them, and or it's just mostly associated with them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to let you guys know. So, like I said, this is pretty much it, not gonna lie. So you really don't need anything after this. I have the rope that I'm gonna use to tie it off, some K rations for the day, my personal items, a sweater, and where's my finger? 2 undershirts. So let's get to rolling. Alright guys, so we're going to start off, like I said, with the most basic of basic blanket rolls. We have 1 blanket rolled, or folded I should say, from corner to corner, hot dog style versus hamburger style, if you guys are familiar. And then all you're basically going to do from here on out is lay out your personal items and roll it. So let's get started. Again, I'm going with the bare minimum. This is pretty much what I carry. There is really no need to carry anything else after this. Everything else can be either carried in pockets, a belt, something, just not in here. So, we'll start off. We have the K-Rats. I like to layer these going vertically just so that they roll better. Boom. And then we have our little personal items, bag, ditty bag, then you got other personal items, and last but not least, the sweater and the 2 shirts. So that's basically all you really need to carry in this. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to take your 2 sides, roll them over your stuff. It doesn't have to completely cover it, it just goes over it. And then you're grabbing this top part here, and basically you're rolling it over. Now again, you can kind of push all this stuff and tighten it up as you go over. I'd recommend getting it as tight as possible on that first roll, and then after that, everything else is gravy. As you can see, literally just keep rolling, and boom, there's your sausage link. So, you would attach your 2 ropes on either end just to keep it closed. And these are just tent half ropes. Like, honestly, you could keep these on your person and always have them. They're great. You can use them for just about anything, even a blanket roll. So, and boom, you guys are set. Now we're going to move into all the other variants and all the other types that you might encounter. Oh, fuck. So I did want to mention that there is one thing to take away from when rolling this, and that is the way that this back part here folds over, because this is going to be major. This is going to make or break your bedroll. Either all your shit's going to fly out the first time you duck and cover, or it's all going to stay nice and perfectly aligned. So, if I pull on this, yeah, see? You can see into the blanket roll. This is what you're trying to prevent. You want everything as tightly as humanly possible wrapped around that so that it stays right in the center. Just thought I'd throw that in there. So now we'll move on to 2 blankets and a shelter half. Okay, guys, so for this variant, we're going to be using a shelter half. Now, the only thing I just want to let you know is all you're doing is folding that corner seam or that back seam over, and the same thing underneath. You're just taking this extra flap and folding it over the shelter half. So now it's nice and squared. Next, what you're going to do is we're going to throw a blanket over it, which is... it's up to you. It could be 2 blankets, it could be 1 blanket. I'm going to go with 1 blanket right now, and we'll keep building and adding. Alright guys, so for this one, we got the shelter half underneath, and then we have the blanket. So the blanket is again the same thing, folded over hot dog style corner to corner. Again, the shelter half is just the 2 seams folded over. And now you have like a big rectangle with another smaller rectangle on this or on the inside. So all you're going to do now is pack it out. So let me just grab all my stuff. And now all you're going to do, again, you're just placing. And again, part of this is placement. So if you have a weird, bulky, squarish blanket roll, it might be just the way you're rolling it, and that just comes down to trial and error and figuring out what it is and isn't that you are or aren't doing. So, again, same gig, nothing special. I guess I'll throw those there. And I know it seems very like casual and very random, but it really is. There really is no direct specific way to do it. It's really just how you want to roll it. So again, we're going to take our two sides, roll them over, and you'll start to notice this is pretty much the way it the way it's done, really. Like, there's no, I'm sure there's a million other ways to roll a blanket roll, but this is really the way that seems to work best, not just for me, but for other people that I've helped and showed in the past. It just seems to work. So again, we're rolling, and after that, dude, it's pretty much, again, it's all gravy. And if you'll notice, this is much thicker. This is a much thicker blanket roll, much heavier. You'll feel it the second you put it on. But that's your blanket roll. So next we're gonna move on to, I'm gonna pack this thing out the gills, and I'm gonna show you exactly what it looks like. And then last, we're gonna show you, there are some guys who literally just put 2 blanket rolls and a sleeping bag and the shelter half. That was it. So I'll show you that as well. So, all right, guys. So this is the packed out the gills version. So as you can see, I've thrown a sleeping bag in there. This is a late war item. 3rd ID common, or 3rd Infantry Division commonly had these towards the end of the war. They were part of the blanket roll. Now, I'm gonna take every possible, because I know reenactors love to leave wherever they are with literally everything they own. So we're gonna do just that. So we're gonna grab all the same shit pretty much. So now we have 2 blankets, we have the shelter half underneath, and then the sleeping bag, and now we're gonna add a raincoat. Let's see, all the other same shit. We'll add a sweater. And you guys should notice that there's a pattern to this. I start out with the same, leave everything in the center, and then pull over the sides and roll it over. So, boom, boom. Again, if you see me making all these little adjustments, it's primarily because that's what's going to make or break the blanket roll. So everything is where I kind of want it. We're going to do the same thing again. We're dragging our 2 sides over. And this is going to be the one that you're going to notice it's a lot thicker than the other one. So again, we're just rolling it over. And already you can see this thing is fucking massive. Like, there's no real reason to be carrying this much stuff at once. You'll never need this much stuff at once. And at this point, you're carrying around, there we go. You're carrying around an officer's bedroll at this point. And this is what I often see when guys try to pull off the blanket roll, is this thick, massive. There's no reason. There's no reason to be carrying all that shit with you. Notice how big this is, and this is probably the main reason why you're having so much trouble with your blanket roll. So next, last but not least, I'm going to show you guys the bare minimum. The actual bare minimum. Alright guys, so this is the last but not least. This is the bare minimum. This is what you will see guys landing at St. Tropez with, as well as just in general. This might be the blanket roll that you're looking at, because guys did have pockets, guys did have bags, they had all kinds of other things to carry this stuff and kind of disperse it around their body evenly. So maybe not everything ended up in the blanket roll. That was the point of the last one, was to kind of give the extreme of if you did put everything in it, that's what it would look like. This is more of a minimalist. So we have 2 blankets, we have the shelter half, the 2 blankets, and a sleeping bag. You can omit the sleeping bag if you want. I'm going to leave it in there. I'm just trying to prove a point that there is a lot of stuff you can put in this and still make it look small or tighter. So, again, we're going to take the 2 sides, throw them over. And this one might be the thinner or thinnest of the group that you'll see. So I also want to add, actually, now that I'm at this point, these two sides are going to be what makes the blanket roll as wide as you see it. Whether it's going to span your whole body or it's going to be a short, stubby blanket roll, that all comes down to where you pull these two sides in. So, like I said, drag the two sides over, blah, 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 pull this over, and then we're just going to roll. I lied. This is actually pretty thick, not gonna lie. So that's your end result. And that's gonna be the last but not least. So if there are any other questions you have, throw them down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to help. Hope this video helped, and enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck on your blanket roll.